Hi everyone, it's Kelly from Women4One, and I am so excited today to have another member of my healing team here, which is a very select group of people that I allow into my life to help me grow. And this person has really truly helped me transform myself and given me the tools that I feel that would be great for you to know about as well. So Justice Bartlett is the founder of EmBody Me, and well, how do I talk about Justice? She's one of the most powerful women I've ever met in my entire life, and the power for me to understand comes from a place from within, and she gives people the tools to work through whatever they're going through in their life in a way to transform themselves. And that is really my focus and the focus of our global community, Women4One. So welcome.
Thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about EmBody Me first before we get into questions?
Yes, absolutely. EmBody Me is your body is your gift, is your best friend. You know, starting with your heart being your announcement to the world through it's the first thing that's formed when you're born, and your entire self grows around that. And there's so much focus in the New Age community on transcending the physical and getting to this ascension point, and we're leaving our most valued ally behind because we live in a three-dimensional world, and we have to be congruent with moving through it, and that starts with being present in the body, being physical, being happy about it, feeling joyful about it, and dissolving all the shame that's developed around the body through our culture and through our enculturation and our conditioning about not loving ourselves and not being here and now. And it's the thing that creates conflict through every single level of the system, and it's that conflict that eventually leads to disease. Mm-hmm. So we start with getting into the body, getting happy about the body, feeling love for the body, feeling it as a touchstone for your experience of reality.
Yes.
And noticing yourself moving from there and integrating from there. So integrating with it rather than battling it.
Right. So taking the mind, body, spirit, emotion, and integrating it, and realize they all work together, kind of like our physical body works together. Right? I mean, truly.
Right. We're a synthesis of energy and physicality, and we're not these mechanized separate systems that most of the modalities that are accepted on a large scale would have us believe. Say the medical model looks at us it looks at the body as a machine, right? And we're not a machine, we're a synthesis of consciousness and physicality, and it's a beautiful partnership and relationship, and that's what EmBody Me is all about.
Great. It's pretty amazing work. So you came from, tell us a little about your experience and how you started EmBody Me. Like where'd you come from? Well, I know where you came from. I met you there, but I'd rather you talk about it.
Where did I come from?
The ethers. Where did I come from?
What, that planet right up there. I like it here. I like Earth. Well, I come from a spiritual background. You know, I was born into this religious community, and I was raised there. And then at one point in my life, I had to reject all of that and go out into my world and sort of discover what it was about for myself. And that looked like a lot of damage and toxicity, and I really went for it. I dove in head first and kind of F myself up pretty good. So when I had enough of that, I found my way back home. And my father's always been an alternative healer, and he developed this amazing modality called matrix energetics. And it was into his arms and into matrix energetics that I came to learn how to heal myself. So matrix became this crucible into which I stepped to begin my own personal healing, and through personally healing myself and gathering what I call placeholders for consciousness development, people, activities, anything that you resonate with that allows for you to get a position in your consciousness and hold it in a more useful way, I look at that as a placeholder.
Okay.
So teachers, modalities, books, movies, music, whatever that might be, and it's an expression and an extension of your own desire to be whole within yourself. And those things show up to sort of support you and create a container for your own growth and development.
Right.
So Matrix became that for me. My dad became that for me. I had several other teachers who became that for me. And through working through that modality, really found myself and really discovered what it was to be me and what a joy it was to be me, and how embodying that
EmBody Me
allowed for other people to see it and to recognize it as something that they wanted, and not as something that was separate from them, but as me, and EmBody Me as a placeholder for them stepping into their own power and their own potential and their own beingness and their own body.
So when you work with clients, and now it's kind of clicking for me, you really hold that space, you hold that wisdom as much as it's possible for you to do that, so you can become a mirror for them to step into that place, right?
Right. And at the same time, they're a mirror for me.
Right, yeah.
Which is that's the beautiful, that's the collaboration, and that's the cooperative part about it, is we're all mirrors for each other. Mm-hmm. And what we love that we see in other people, we hold that within ourselves. And,
right.
And what we loathe we see in other people,
we hold that within ourselves.
It's all there.
Well, it's funny, when I met you on the stage, I saw you on the stage at Matrix Energetics, you did embody this authenticity that I was just starting to tap into in myself, and I was like looking at that mirror reflection. I was just actually in awe of the space that you could hold on the stage, and I've told you that before. But it wasn't about acting on a stage, but really coming from that deeply authentic place. So I really want to know personally, how do you define authenticity? Like, what would that word or the vision of it, because you're pretty visual as well, mean to you?
What immediately comes to mind is congruency, and you say visually, right? So what I say when you say authentic is I see a person, I see you, looking into the mirror, standing in front of the mirror, and saying, I love what I see here. I love every single part of what I see here, what I see and what I don't see, and what I know and what I don't know. And I'm willing to meet that, and I'm willing to recognize that, and I'm willing to do it within myself as the absolute opportunity and the crux for growth and development. I'm willing to do it in other people, because when I'm willing to meet that aspect, whether it's good or whether it's perceived as bad, I'm willing to meet it with the same kind of love and the same kind of respect, and see it in you as I see it in me. That's what being authentic to me is. Mm-hmm. And not pushing the things away that I don't want to look at, but meeting them head on, being brave. Being authentic is being courageous, and that
it is courageous, because talking about that with the shadows, right?
Right.
I look in the mirror, and I've had to practice that. I've been given that by a lot of my teachers over the years. Stand naked and look in the mirror. I still have a hard time doing it, and I'm wondering what kind of, if you could talk about the shadow a little bit and what your experience of it is. And I keep setting my intent to do it, but it's still very challenging, and I'm sure a lot of people experience that in all kinds of ways, not just looking in a mirror, but looking at any of their.
Well, we're always looking in a mirror, so it is looking in a mirror.
But really,
right?
literally, physically, when you said that,
but
in a mirror,
standing in front of that reflection of yourself.
Right.
So the shadow. The shadow tends to be the things about our personality that we don't like.
Right.
That we don't feel is good enough. Mm-hmm. That we don't feel is deserving. Mm-hmm. That we don't feel is welcomed into love's embrace.
Right.
And through our exclusion of pushing that outside of the embrace of love and the embrace of acceptance, we actually create more conflict within ourselves, and we create more opportunities for that part to act out. Because as we turn away from it, we empower it with our discontent.
Right, okay.
So
you empower it with the discontent. So the more energy you're putting in there, instead of focusing on hiding it,
right?
Or not looking at it,
right?
Or just pretending everything's fine,
right? Which I think is it's a huge disservice,
right?
Because you can't. It's like the elephant in the room, right? Your shadow is every much a part of you as your body, as your soul, as your goodness, as your light.
It's the same.
It's exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like imagine like a little child looking into the dark. There's what's in the darkness. Well, who knows what's in the mind of that child? It's what's in the mind of the child that becomes a part of the darkness. Mm-hmm. And the shadow is the same thing. Whatever we project that we're not consciously aware of, that's not being embraced, it's not being unfolded, that shows up in our darkness, and then that blows up bigger in our life until it manifests in our relationships, it manifests in our job situations, it manifests in our health.
Right.
And it's like this being that's screaming for love and attention.
Yeah, and until you give that acceptance, that love, that love and attention, it's not gonna shift at all. Is that where you?
It'll continue to act out.
Right.
You know, think about it
Like the pebble, and then the rock, and then the boulder.
Right.
Your whole world blows up.
And then we're all gone.
Yeah. Boom. You're done. So where would you start if you were somebody, and this all made sense and kind of touched on a deep place in them when you're talking, where would you start with getting some tools to go there?
Kindness.
Kindness to yourself.
Kindness to yourself. More so than anything else, because everything that you say to yourself, and you can think about the critical voice, and everybody's familiar with this voice, right?
Yes.
And, like, where does this voice come? Like, who is it that's judging me when I'm standing in front of the mirror? It's that critical voice,
Mm-hmm.
right? Who is it that's picking out that little fat roll and going, ooh, you're ugly, that's not good enough? That's
Right.
that critical voice. So meeting that critical voice and saying, I can be kind to you.
Not being angry with it,
Not
or judging
being
the
angry with
critical
it.
voice and going, oh, here you go again.
Right.
Yeah, because that's what I do. Yeah. Like I'm like, oh, I'm done with this. But really being kind to that voice.
Being kind to that.
And how do you do that? Justice.
I realize that you are effed up, that you're having a bad day, and that's okay. And
Just allow
that's
for
okay. Just allow for it. You know, the more you judge it, the more you freeze the energy that's already manifesting in that state, and then it grows, and it will blow up to the point where you have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't get dealt with by more condemnation.
No, it actually gives it, you're watering it,
Right.
feeding it.
Exactly.
So how do you think this individual, kind of what you're talking about individually, relates and translates to a global level, like for women in general, since most of our followers and community are women?
Right.
I mean, it's obvious on some levels with the wars and the oppression.
But it's super obvious at that level, and you can see the oppression of women that manifests as the shadow through the collective consciousness and every single major branch of everything: medicine, religion, politics, culture. Right? It just. Who's this guy? Rappers, right? Well, let's look at the way that rappers talk about women, and these are the guys that are idolized and paid the big bucks, and who our kids are all goo-goo-eyed over.
Yep.
And do you hear the things that they're saying about women? And
Yes.
this is our shadow. This is our shadow manifest on the grand scale that is trying to tell us: do you realize what you think about yourself? Do you realize how you see yourself? And do you realize how you're treating each other?
Mm-hmm.
And how you're complacent in it by not standing up for yourselves?
Yeah, no, I get that, because I think for a couple of years when I was beginning to kind of really move into my power and my authenticity, I would notice what was going on, but I wouldn't say anything. It's now I moved into a place where it's and everybody notices it about me. I've gotten a lot of feedback. It's impossible for me to not say something now. I first asked myself for an example, like, is it for the higher good of the other person and me? When I notice someone is doing something that's really out of integrity or from their shadow, and if I hear no, I don't do it, but I do hold a place where I'm not colluding with them, if
Right.
that makes sense. But it's impossible now, because it's like when you decided to stand in your power, you can't just be apathetic and sit there and
Right.
silent, and that's a new place for me. So it would be nice if more people in our society and our collective consciousness could get there. Do you agree?
Absolutely. It's imperative. It's got to happen.
Right. So and this is a great question. It just came to me because I really want to know it, Justice. How do you think we can move into that space without going into fear and being this, oh my gosh, the world's going to end and it's awful? Because I noticed that a lot in our society. We go into this histrionic place of everything's so awful, instead of stepping into a place of no, we have choice and we have power.
Right. Well, I think the recognition that something is awful is the first step, honestly. Because one of my favorite quotes is, how does it go? It's something along the lines of, we wake up when we stop agreeing to the things that insult our soul.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing that we have to say is no. I will not accept this. I won't tolerate this. This is not okay. It's like a woman who's been in an abusive relationship. She's using her no against herself, essentially. Mm-hmm. She's telling her being, she's telling her power, she's telling her total expression of divine consciousness. She's telling that no. And she's agreeing to being pushed down, so she in turn is pushing herself down.
Right.
So when she says no more, that part of her rises up, and that's the yes. So by the appropriate use of the no, we actually allow for the yes to grow within us. And then by saying no to what is not working for us, we open the doorway to what could work for us.
So it's not about fear.
It's not about fear.
But you know that distinction that people they use fear tactics to scare people into taking action around something, whether it be any kind of protests or anything like that.
Right.
That's something doesn't feel right about that to me. It feels it's like it's coming from a fear-based place instead of coming from a powerful, no, we won't put up with this place.
Right.
I don't know. I mean,
well, so here's a great example of that, and how it's just the other side of the same coin, right? It's a friend of mine was telling me how her a father, a stepfather, or an uncle, somebody in her family had gone away to Vietnam, had fought in the war, had come home, and he's a war hero, right? Mm-hmm. Here's this guy. He didn't start the war. He didn't choose to go over there. He was probably drafted, for God's sake. It's not like he was a willing participant in doing this. It was he didn't have any choice.
Right.
So he went. He did the best that he could with the situation he was in. He comes home, and meanwhile, all these peace movements have gone on, right?
Right.
All this war opposition through peaceful movements. Okay, so are these people are really at peace with themselves who are participating in this other level of this conflict?
Right.
He encounters one of these peaceful hippie dippies, you know, the patchouli, the long hair, the flowers, and all. Yeah. And this woman spits in his face. So the first step is to get congruent with you. You know, if you're
preaching peace,
be fucking peaceful, for God's sake. Yeah. Have some integrity about the way that you show up.
Right. That's a really good, I love that. Have integrity the way you show up in the world. And that's really all EmBody's about. Right. Teaching people to step into their personal integrity, about how they show up for themselves and the world. Do you think? I mean,
absolutely.
Now I even understand it more, and I've been going to you for all these years. No, really. I mean, but there is something unique personally about you, because, you know, my whole life, that's been my greatest passion, is to learn and grow. I mean, what else is there? But really, I mean, it's been a yearning of mine my whole life, and there's a lot of people that can't do what you do. And it's like this intangible thing, so I'm curious, and this might be a challenging question, but what is your differentiator? Like, I mean, I could talk about all your incredible traits and qualities, but is it really, truly you stepping into your authenticity and power and being grounded about what you're doing? What is your unique, if you had to answer that?
If I believed that it was something unique to me that only I could do, I wouldn't be doing it. You know, I would be doing something else. So I really genuinely believe that it is a power that everybody has within them. I've just taken the time to cultivate it. I've actually made it's my top priority. You know, my spiritual practice and living my life in my spiritual way it's not a separate thing. I don't even go to church, for God's sake. I don't see the need. I don't see the point when my car is God. My boyfriend is God. My child is God. It's all God. So it's all an opportunity to recognize that divinity within myself through that divinity in them, and to make those connections. And even the stuff that I don't want to look at, it's still God. It's still every single aspect of it. And the willingness, I have this extreme willingness to go into the places that I don't want to go into the places with myself, and then I'm available to go into those places with other people because I've been there.
Right.
And I can hold that, you know.
And yeah, but I love you have this unique way of not not going into really recognizing and differentiating when people have victimhood and are storytelling compared to really sharing and releasing. And I think with Women for One, that is my intent. It's not about telling stories. It's about sharing your story and figuring out for yourself how to take action in your life to embody your power.
Right. And
there is a uniqueness because there's a lot of therapists out there and there's a lot of energy workers, healers that really don't have that unique differentiator. So I'm not blaming them, I'm just saying that it is a unique.
The word that comes to mind
trait.
is evolution. You know, if you're not demonizing the things that you don't want about yourself, but you're looking at a way to meet those things and to meet those things with love. You know, and love does not necessarily look like lying down and getting trampled on. It can be fierce, and sometimes you have to practice fierce love even with yourself. You know, compassion can be fierce. It's not all ooey gooey, soft and pooey. It's got to be real. You have to be real with yourself, and that means looking at the things that frighten you and being willing to meet the same things that frighten you with the same compassion that you're willing to meet these things that you find good in yourself. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And for you personally, what is your biggest challenge personally in your traits? Mine, I have a lot, but patience, judgment. I look at some of my shadows. I'm just curious for you personally. I know a lot of people that would love to hear that about justice.
I've run a long-standing story around abandonment and rejection.
Okay.
So consistently, that's my test. Consistently, is to look at, and it comes first. Okay, who do I need to first pick up and uphold in that state of love? It's me, right?
Right.
It's me. Number one, I have to pick up and I have to uphold myself in that state of love. And not abandon and not reject myself. And I'm not talking about the personality self, I'm talking about the self, the whole total self, which is part of the personality, and that it's the spirituality, it's the body, it's the emotions, it's everything. And historically, through my story, I could tell you that I was left with my great-grandparents, which was fine for me as a child, but we have this connection that we need from our parents that when they're gone, something is missing from our life. Our parents, not our grandparents, not our adopted parents, are the divine in physical form for us.
Right.
So whatever original wounding we have from our parents tends to become our test.
Yes.
So my parents, they left me with my grandparents. They needed to get their life sorted out. So I have replayed this pattern of rejection, even going so far as abandoning my own daughter to being raised by her grandparents. And that was horrible, It's
like you replayed it.
I replayed it, exactly.
To experience it on the other side.
Right. and I felt it, in my first marriage, I played a lot of the rejector, what it seemed like the rejector to him, because he was the one who was more, he was always pulling, he was always wanting something, right? Which is fine, it's just where he was at. And I was the one who was like,
whatever, yeah.
No, I'm not interested. Really, no. So then in my current relationship, which is, it's love like I've never known before. It's amazing. But within the first year, all of the ways I felt like I reject my ex-husband all came out in my face. I got to relive it from the other side, which was freaking non-awesome.
Not fun.
Not fun.
Yeah.
Not fun. And it felt to me like, this gorgeous man who we agreed to step into this life together in this very insane, crazy way. Like, I suddenly felt like he was rejecting me. And what he was really doing is he was going into his own being and pulling up the parts of himself that needed to be worked on. And what showed up in my face to work on was all this freaking rejection.
Yeah.
And it's, I could go on and on and on and on in the ways that it showed up. But I think
that's a big one for you.
That was a huge one for me.
It's a huge for most people, I would say.
Yeah.
That one. I can totally relate to everything you're saying. If you look at it on the greater themes of your life.
Right.
And you could go into all kinds of things, but that one has shown up for me a lot as well. So when we talk about the world though, if you had to hold a vision and intent for everyone, usually ask about women, what would it be for them?
Courage. No, you're asking me a question. I'm just going with the first word that's coming through.
No.
The spirit's like courage. Like I see it like
In bright lights?
and like like Vegas lights, right?
Yeah, I saw it too. Purple Vegas lights. This is WomenforOne. So.
Yeah, courage, which is core of the heart. It's the quality of the heart. We develop that willingness to open our heart, and that is our courage.
Mm-hmm.
But that means that we come up against the things that tend to make us want to close down to feel safe, because we might feel that we're vulnerable when we open our heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we tend to shy away from vulnerability because then we think, oh, we have to protect ourselves. We're not safe, so we put up the walls. And all we do when we put up those walls and try to defend that vulnerability, which is actually our greatest asset, is we shut down. We shut down the part of ourselves that's attempting to grow and that's attempting to glow, and we shut down the rest of the world from being able to see that.
Right.
So what it sees is it sees this need for protection, and it responds in kind. It says, oh, you think you need protection? Well, here, let me validate that reality for you.
Right. That's very interesting, because when you said the word, I thought I had a Skype call with a young Egyptian woman this week, and we're in talks of going over there and just talking to these women that had just experienced a revolution a couple of years ago. And she talked to me about some of her friends, women in Syria, being sold to men in Egypt. She explained a dowry to me. I went, "You mean a dowry?" She goes, "Oh yes." She's explaining, "Oh, you know, and she said, but the men think they're doing the Syrian women a favor by doing that, and the women actually are grateful." And but my point was, talking to her, I had this vision of, for women in a global perspective, there's two different types of struggle that women are having. In the Western world, I find it to be more of, I mean, it's all self-oppression, but it's more internal. We have our external needs, right. But it's literally physical needs, physical oppression. It's very external.
Right.
But what I found was really unique and interesting about this woman, she's 23 years old, she's getting her PhD, so she's very unique in Egypt, in feminism, and she has her master's in English Lit, but she was more empowered and more courageous than many women, large percentage of women that are my age in this country. So it's almost like, you know, she has something to push against,
right.
And now she's stepping into her power and her courageousness. It's just a unique kind of way to witness that a young woman who has been put in the middle of a very dangerous area, she's 23 years old, and just talking to me is courageous, speaking out about this. But yet here, the internal struggles that we're having creates this, like you said, this shadow and this shutdown and this self-oppression. And I wanted to share that with you. I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Well, you're talking about this woman, and the thought that comes to mind is like when you put a seed in the ground and then you cover it with soil, right? And the seed has to push against the soil to be able to blossom, right?
Right.
And what comes to mind for me is she's obviously cultivated some kind of rich inner world that's blooming from within her in such a way that it's pushing through this overlay of this soil.
Mm-hmm.
Probably out of a survival need. It has to happen. It absolutely has to happen for her.
Like you said, it has to happen for us. Courage has to happen.
Right.
For the whole world with women. It's imperative, like you said.
Right.
So what do you think about women here that, and I mean, this is a big generalization, but I'm just talking about in general in the Western culture, it feels more insidious, less evident than out over there where it's imperative externally.
Well, we appear to have a lot of freedom.
Right.
You know, we can for the most part we can pick our career of choice. We can choose who we want to marry. We can, decide whether or not we want to have children. We're getting more positions in government. Like it appears that women are doing very well.
Mm-hmm.
But women in this country, to my way of thinking, have foregone a lot of their femininity in their search to be recognized as an equal power. They've actually defeminized themselves and become more masculine. And so the femininity has gone underground, and we've become our own oppressors. We've taken on the role of suppressing our femininity to the degree to where it's comfortable for us to move through the world without being these flaming wide open vaginas, right? This screaming canal for creation and creativity and life and vitality. We've pushed that down enough in ourselves to be accepted in this very rigid, very structured society that we appear to have a lot of freedom in, but we really don't. We're convinced so much to our external freedom. It's like, okay, well, I can go shopping, I can choose this, I can choose this, I can choose this, I can choose this. But what we're not doing is we're not cultivating that softness, that, and as I watch you melt, as they say it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's missing for a lot of us, for most of us. And
that's what Sheila Kelly said, the same thing. I mean, I think what she's doing is groundbreaking. Now, if you look on the external, it looks like she's teaching women how to strip for men. She's not.
Right.
My conversation with her was exactly the same. She wants women to cultivate that inner femininity for themselves, to bring that power up inside themselves.
Right.
And have that support network of supporting one another and that internal feminine.
Well, look at how threatened by each other we are, right? Like, we don't need that. That's the last thing that we need. We need to become each other's allies.
Right.
But instead of having that recognition of our deep, dark, velvety softness and seeing that in each other, it's been pushed down so much to where when we get even a glimpse of it, we're threatened by it. And we get a glimpse of it in another person, and we see that as power, but we see that as an outside source of power that threatens our source of power.
Right.
When it's not possible. We're all one source of power.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting you said it. It made me think. I set an intention a couple of months ago that whenever I saw a woman with the light in her eye, like beautiful. When I say beautiful, it's not the physical. It's just that when I felt this beauty around them, I tell them, even if they were a stranger. And it has thrown women off. I'll just be in a store and like, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. And it's so shocking for a woman to hear another woman just compliment them, because if a man does it in our society, they're hitting on them,
right?
You know, but it feels good to support one another. It's I think, like you said, it's imperative, and I think it takes courage to be unique and different that way. It's one of the many ways I think we need to do that.
Well, I mean, it starts, when we're really young, like junior high, with the cliquishness, which is just
my daughter's going through it. Yeah,
it's vicious. We are vicious little horrible bitches to each other from a very young age. It's awful. And then it develops into this sense of rivalry and competition for jobs, for men, for parking spaces, for everything, right? Mm-hmm. When we're not focusing, we don't know what we really want, so we think that what we really want can be taken away by somebody else because we don't know what we want. If we were developing and we were owning what we truly wanted and what our real dream was, and allowing that dream to thrive and live within our being and within our body, we wouldn't be worried about anybody taking away that from us, because it's impossible.
It is impossible
to
take it away. Yeah. So if you had a piece of advice to share with our community, what would you say? Or a quote or anything that you feel like is imperative, like you said, with the word courage, what comes to you?
That's tricky. So how to take that essence from there's so much down to what's really important. Mm-hmm. The word that comes to mind is chalice. Okay. Actually, holding the energy, mm-hmm. holding the power, the courage, allowing ourselves to really become the magnetic force that we truly are. Mm-hmm. If you look at the womb as a magnet, and obviously we all embody both masculine and feminine consciousness, and typically the male consciousness just sort of runs wild. Mm-hmm. And even as women, we're much more aligned with the male figuring things out, the logistics and everything. And as women, our power is our womb, is our magnetic attracting capability. And Sheila Kelly, she mentioned the idea of the egg consciousness, and you couldn't agree more. And to develop that even further, we're out there. How do I create my reality? It's already created. It's already done. It's in you. It was born into you. It was in you before you were born. Every single woman is like one of those little Russian dolls, right?
Oh, right. That's a good way. That's a nice visual.
Like you look at this line of matriarchy, and you as you are now, you had every single egg that you were ever going to potentially release into the world inside of you when you were in your mother's womb.
Right.
And the same is true for her, and the same is true for her, and the same is true for her, and the same is true for her.
Right.
So our creative power exists within us. And we need to, if we really want to become powerful, we need to stop running all over the place and chasing everything down and allow ourselves to learn to sit with what is inherently within us and to become that basket rather. It's so funny is you get the image like that, like the chalice versus like this weed whacker, right?
Just running around,
like, seriously? No, this chalice, and there's this beautiful, luscious fullness that exists in the universe that we can't capture if we're not aware of that magnetic attracting capability that we all hold inherently within us.
Right. And don't you think that, I mean, how do you think men will be helped by this? Because I really think the whole world will be so impacted. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying women have to come into their power and men, I don't care about men. I think it will so positively affect men and the masculine energy of this world as well with the balance.
Right. I couldn't agree more because I love men. I love them. Love them. My whole life I've loved them. Yes. Men. They're so good. And as long as we're so busy being men, they don't really get to fully be men,
That's a good point.
It will really allow them to become the men that they are and the whole men that they are. And because we're more naturally intuitive just physically with the way that our bodies tend to run with the cycles of the earth and the moon and everything, it's kind of our job to be that and to be that grounding for them, because they're like a bunch of astronauts floating around in space and they're looking for somewhere to land, and like we are that place to land, and the earth itself, so that's the earth, it's a feminine platform. And as long as they don't feel like they have anywhere safe to land, they need that safe harbor. They need that. They need
home,
us,
right? That's
right.
Everything.
They need us to be. They need us to be empowered mothers, and they need us to be empowered wives and sisters and lovers.
Right.
So that they can take the time to allow for that softness to develop enough in them as well.
So we have some balance in both.
Right.
Both the. I love that we touched on men, because I find that a lot of times it's mistaken that we're sitting around talking about women have to come in their power, and this is really about the balance of the energies. I mean,
right. I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think the feminist movement wasn't really taken through women's power. It had a lot more to do with women wearing penises on their head than actually opening their vaginas.
It's true. On that note, so what are you currently doing? Are there any projects or anything that you want to share before we close? Close our vaginas?
Very close. Okay. What I'm currently participating in that's being birthed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
This great thing called the One Gathering that my friend and collaborator Jennifer Yost has been producing for the last few years, and it is really the design of this is to help build what she calls heart-based camps through entertainment and through fun.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this One Gathering is going to be a group of people who are coming together to present to a group of people that we're basically creating this energetic bubble of experience to raise consciousness, to open the heart, to enliven the being, to entertain, and to facilitate joy and fun.
Okay, and when is it? I mean, is it
June 2nd?
So it's June 2nd in Seattle?
And it's going to be in Seattle.
And how do you find out about it? A little bit more.
That's a great question. The One Gathering. All right, so let's see.
OneGathering.com.
I want to make sure I get, yeah, it's the onegathering.com.
Onegathering.com. That's great. Yeah, here, we'll hold it here too.
Okay, there we go.
So you're working with her on that.
I am. I'm
That's
going
great.
to be the key presenter in this one, and there's several
Wow.
other presenters that will be phenomenal, including my love accomplice, Mr. Kent Gouze of Soul Tracks.
That's awesome.
So-
That's really great. And so, and then you also have your practice with EmBodyMe. Do you do distance sessions as well?
I do sessions worldwide through either phone or Skype. We're in my Seattle office.
But your massage is just, you know, in person.
And massage is pretty much in person.
Matrix massage is
Matrix
in person.
massage is in person. I haven't figured out how to do that at a distance. Why? It's just not the same, right?
Yeah, you gotta have hands-on touch.
You need that visceral.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Justice. I'm so honored to have had you speak with me.
Likewise.
I love you and love everything about you, and I appreciate you being one of the greatest teachers I've ever experienced. So thank you.
Thank you.